Hi, I'm Bill Pearis, an editor at brooklynvegan.com, and you are listening to BV Interviews, which features conversations with some of our favorite artists. This week, we're talking to James Smith of UK band Yard Act. James and I talked about Yard Act's just-released third album, You're Gonna Need a Little Music, and how its creation was very different from the band's first two albums. We also talk about living in Los Angeles while making the record, as well as time he spent in Detroit and Nashville this year, and the band's upcoming North American tour, which starts this week, August 5th to be specific. He also tells us about the band's hometown of Leeds, its long and storied indie and alternative music history, and its still fertile scene, and why the band have resisted moving somewhere else like London. Plus, James tells us how he recently got into painting, who is the best cook in Yard Act, and lots more. Let's get into it. Here's my conversation with Yard Act's James Smith. I'm excited to have as my guest this week James Smith, frontman for Leeds UK band Yard Act. They just released their third album, You're Gonna Need a Little Music, and will be on tour in North America starting August 5th. James, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Bill.
All right. How are you and where are you?
I'm good. I'm very good. And I am in my extremely hot attic in Leeds.
So does the whole band still live in Leeds?
Yeah, Sam, my guitarist, he's moved to Bradford, so he's got about 4 miles away, which I appreciate that in American terms would still probably would not be a big deal. But over here, if you move 4 miles away, you may as well have crossed the ocean.
Okay. You've resisted the urge to move to London, or I feel like so many bands from non-London places end up moving to London.
Yeah, we've never really had any interest in it. It's probably, I think London's great. We have a great time when we go there. We've got a lot of friends there. The shows are always amazing, but I think it's better to resist it where you can. I think a fertile scene across the country is more important, and so we're happy to fly the flag from where we are. Plus, it's nice to be removed from it all sometimes, you know.
Or are you born and raised in Leeds? I know that it's a big college town.
No, it's where I went to university. Well, I went to the College of Music here, but I was born in Wythenshawe Hospital and raised in a village called Lymm, just outside Warrington, which is in the northwest, so it's not far away. It's kind of between Manchester and Liverpool.
Is it a place people should come and visit?
Leeds?
Yeah.
I always, I sound like I'm going to say no. I'm not. Leeds is definitely a place that kind of, I think I'd say it's a great hub to explore West Yorkshire as a county, as a region. I think West Yorkshire is one of the most beautiful places in the world. It's so scenic and idyllic, and the best thing about Leeds is that the city of Leeds itself is kind of like, it's good people. It is a friendly place. It's easy going, but there's not that much to sort of grab you apart until you're kind of integrated into it. You know, it was easy for me to build a life here, but if people were coming to Leeds for the day, I would kind of struggle to tell them what the big hitters are that would make it worth the while. But as a base, once you get sort of 5 or 6 miles out of the city and you're surrounded by green, and you know, there's beautiful rivers, beautiful rolling hills to explore for mile after mile after mile, and that's my favourite part of living here, is getting out of the city a little bit.
I interviewed Andrew Eldritch a couple years ago and asked him about Leeds, and he said it's not a tourist destination.
Yeah, he's probably. I mean, I think he's from Bradford, and moved to Leeds. So he made that big leap 4 miles. I might be wrong. I'm sure the Sisters of Mercy, I'm sure he's from Bradford originally. No, I'm thinking of New Model Army. Sorry. Maybe Andrew Eldridge is born and raised in Leeds. His house, funnily enough, was around the corner from the studio where we did You're Gonna Need a Little Music. And Justin, our producer, is a massive Sisters of Mercy fan. And we were sort of egging him on to go knock on his door and sort of get a poster signed or something, but he was too scared. Even my heroes have heroes of their own, I suppose. Yeah, it's not a tourist destination, but you know, he's never left. I don't think I'll ever leave. People build a life here, yeah. And everyone's welcome, you know. I'm definitely insane. If you want to come here, come check it out.
Okay.
See for yourself.
So your tour's about to start. The album's been out for 10 days and it's currently sitting at number 15 on the UK album charts. How are you feeling about everything now?
Now it's out. Yeah, great. I mean, there's always that kind of weird gap between finishing a record and then the sort of wait and the sort of the rollout for it, where it doesn't feel quite real. But you're kind of doing a lot of the work that's going to lead towards it feeling real. And it's kind of all built around this sort of singular day, the day it drops. But the reality is that that's not how music is consumed, and it's not how the music spreads. Like, it's just out there forever now, and it's part of our canon, and it's something we're extremely proud of this record, and we were extremely proud of it as soon as we finished it, and that hasn't waned. I'm just glad people get to hear it, and I think it's just out in its world doing its own thing now, and that's kind of like, it's kind of a relief now it's out, I suppose. We can move on.
You've played songs off of this album for almost a year, maybe longer. When was the album actually made?
We started recording it in Leeds in September, and we did 5 weeks in Leeds, and then we took off on that Hives tour, and then we finished it in LA in January. We did a month in LA in January to finish it, and then it was mixed and mastered by the end of February.
The studio in Leeds, that's like a band studio, your own studio?
Yeah, so we spent 2025 writing it in our studio, and then we did a couple of weeks pre-pro in there with Justin before we moved to a bigger studio in Leeds to sort of track the body of the album, which is called The Nave, and that's the studio that's near Andrew Eldridge's and Sisters of Mercy's studio. I believe, I don't know where he lives, but I believe he lives above it. I'll keep that vague enough.
Okay. So you recorded some, then you went on tour with the Hives, and then you finished it up a little later. Did that tour with the Hives, like after you had already started working on the record, did that change the direction of any of the songs?
No, I think it changed the direction of our approach to the live show. And it might have rubbed off on the sort of final month subconsciously, but by that, LA was mainly sort of overdubs and sort of salt and pepper on everything. I think I gained a lot from watching Pele on that Hives tour and sort of realizing how good a show needs to be and why they are, one of the best live bands in the world. I'm not contesting that they say they are the best. I'm just not going to scramble to try and find anyone better right now. But I'll just go with it. Yeah, they're the best live band in the world, as they say, and as I say. The main thing that we got from that tour wasn't the sort of shows themselves in regards to the album. I think it was more that we'd never taken a break mid-recording before, and we've never spent this long on a record before, and it really confused me at first. I kind of we'd booked the tour, and so necessity negated that we needed to take the gap in the middle of the record because it wasn't feasible to do the 10 weeks that Justin wanted to do on the record in one go. But by prior commitments forced us to take that break. And at first I was really antsy in the van. I was like, we shouldn't be on tour. We should be finishing this record. But as I got back into the groove, maybe it brought a little bit of freedom and a bit more sort of spirit of the moment energy towards the end of the record. Once I settled into that, it was the best thing for the record, I think, was that breathing space and that, and to not listen to it, unconscious reflection, I suppose, of what we'd done, letting that sink in without overanalyzing it, I think. And then starting in January fresh in LA, I think with the LA weather as well, it did really play a part. I kind of don't want it to be that corny, but even LA in January is a different world to Leeds in September. And so I think that did bring a little bit of light to proceedings at the very end that has fed into the sort of emotion of the record.
Pele give you any mic swinging tips?
I tried it, and I think we use cheaper XLRs than they do because my mic flew off. So I'm not going to try and beat him at his own game. He does do this thing. I know you can't see me, sorry, because I haven't got a camera, but he does this like 2-hand wave where he nods his head and he sort of beckons the crowd. And I have kind of stolen that because I've realized that there's something in that energy that whips a crowd up. And so I kind of do that as well now. But yeah, I think, I don't know, they are just, he is one of the best frontman ever. Like he just understands, because obviously, you know, he leans into that. He doesn't really come out of that character, but like you talk to him off stage, he's not that guy. He understands completely how to wear that light up suit on stage and for that hour and a half be the man, you know what I mean? And like like that's stepping into that fully, you know. There's I do think there's too much modesty in modern rock and roll. Be humble off stage, but on stage, like, people are paid for a show, you know.
Yeah, there's definitely something for showmanship. I will say, your last tour, there was a lot of showmanship up there. You guys had backup dancers and choreography.
Yeah, I think my favorite place to be is the studio. That's where I'm happiest, writing songs. I love the recording process from start to finish. I love how delicate it is. I love the idea that you get this spark of an idea, you know you can better it, but you know you can also burn it to a crisp if you overcook it. I kind of love the delicacy of the recording process and making sure that you get it just right. That's where I like to channel most of my energy, but equally I do think that, so I think when you're playing live, it's completely different. We don't deliver our records live the same as we record them. You know, especially with that second album, like, it was so sort of like sample heavy, and we kind of realized quite quickly that replicating it the same live actually killed a bit of energy that suits the record and the sort of headphone listen that it is, but you don't want to go to a show for a headphone listen. So bringing the energy of the dancers felt of Daisy and Lauren really felt like it brought this sort of, that was like the visual embodiment, I think, of the sort of the manicness that the samples and all the sort of the cut ups and everything that we threw on that record that we chose not to do live. I feel like their movement was that, essentially. They embodied that, and it brought a lot to it.
Yeah, I got to see it twice. I saw it in Oslo at the Oya Festival, and then I saw it at Irving Plaza in New York City.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Both those shows were great, actually.
Yeah.
I loved Irving Plaza as a venue. Oh, yeah. And Ryan from the Cribs, Exclamation Pony opened that night as well, didn't they? It was a good night. Yeah, I mean, New York's always a fun time, but that Oya Festival as well was great. It was a fun year. Like, the shows around that were a lot of fun. Like, Daisy and Lauren really brought the energy to it, you know.
Yeah.
It was loads of fun. They're not with us now, like, necessity, basically. Maybe we'll get them back one day, but like right now, we're like, it didn't feel like, again, the mood shifts, and you kind of, the songs off that record, we're playing songs off Where's My Utopia again now, and the feels kind of shifted a little bit, and it's weird that they kind of feel more better. I'm enjoying playing those songs more now than I did on that tour, almost because I guess it's because we haven't played them for a bit, but we're bringing back a couple of deep cuts off that record and stuff for the up and coming tour. It's been a joy to revisit them, and sort of, I think that's kind of what I was saying about a song isn't necessarily its recording, and it's not how it's delivered live. I think it's you're kind of trying to carry the core of the song, the sort of spirit of the song can be sort of reshaped and reformed in any way, as long as the sort of the message, as impressionistic as it may be, as long as you get that sentiment across, you can sort of dress it up in any way you want, on record and live. And so these new versions of the because we've been doing it, the first album especially, the way we play those songs live now, to me, they're far superior than the record. But I know that a lot of people kind of love that kind of scratchy, sort of thin charm of the Overload. But like, we're a pretty heavy funk rock band now, essentially. And that to me serves the purpose live. Like, if we tried to play those like the record on those big stages, they'd fall short, I think. Even in terms of like the pacing of them and the way I deliver vocals. Like, I learned when we moved into the bigger rooms that you can't do the monotone talking kind of works on a small stage when you can kind of engage on a very human level with a small audience. But when you're when you're echoing around a room, you have to deliver it different. So we kind of always adapt and evolve to the room and where we're at, I guess.
I was going to ask if maybe this record, you designed it more to be with the live show in consideration as far as like the arrangements.
A little bit. I think like like with Daisy and Lauren, like it was originally like because of the way we layered Where's My Utopia, there was so many voices and harmonies on it that we physically couldn't do it as a 4-piece. Mainly, you know, with just me and Ryan singing, that we needed these extra voices and we didn't want to go to track, and we've never gone to track, which we're in a privileged position to be able to do. I don't begrudge anyone trying to make ends meet on the road who's designed something that they can't, or a backing vocalist or a brass section or whatever. Like you've got to use a bit of track if that's, you know, to get by. But like we're in a position where, you know, we lost money in certain territories touring as a 7-piece, but it felt more essential to keep it live and keep it raw. I think since we've got more confident with those songs, I think this time around it wasn't necessarily we're like, whoa, we need to save money, so we're going to do it this way. But right. I think the band was so much more confident. There was no hesitation that we could capture it right at the source. And it is the first album that we've been able to fully play, you know, the second we've wrapped the record, which we did. You know, we've been playing the album start to finish on the record store run, and we did a couple of sort of surprise shows in the UK when it was announced. And like, that is a good position to be in, because we've always felt like we're chasing our own tails a little bit to get on top of being able to perform the records live because of necessity up until this point. So yeah, it's a nice position to be in for sure.
What songs off the new record are going over well live?
I mean, You're Gonna Need a Little Music, the title track. We played that all summer, and like, you know, we played it like Primavera and a couple of other festivals, and like, it's a pretty stupid move to go into a festival set and play 9 new songs off a record that's not out yet. But we make those stupid decisions because it feels like that, you know, you've got to be ahead. You can't rest on your laurels. That feels important to us. So we knew that we were kind of up against it, playing songs that weren't out yet. But it was kind of freaky how much that song got a crowd going, despite the fact it didn't exist to them yet, apart from in that moment. So that was really nice. And then New Beginnings has really picked up. I think Empty Pledges really works as an opener. Thrill of the Chase goes down really well, which is interesting to me. That's not one of my favorites, but
that seems like a hard one to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's been referred to, I think, as the rap. The rap I do in verse 3, that always gets a big cheer, which I find that's moderately amusing to me, because that's just me doing my thing. Like, that sort of started as it was a bit of a sort of like challenge to sort of like see how far I could push those words, but it seems to have resonated with people. It's fun. I actually stopped smoking on the Hives tour, and it was a lot harder on the Hives tour to do it than it has been since. So if anything good comes from anyone listening to this podcast, if you want to do a really fast rap, it's easier if you don't smoke.
You're kind of straight edge, right? You don't drink anymore, right? Did I feel
not
like
really? No, I've had a few drinks actually, but no, I'm not like a drinker like I was at all. I stopped smoking, and I've stopped smoking weed. I feel like everyone needs a little bit of advice. Not everyone, but I certainly need some, and I've sort of taken to having a glass of wine after, never on a show day, but every now and then I'll sort of have a few drinks. But yeah, I'm pretty clean these days.
I mean, your songs have always been pretty lyrically dense. Thrill of the Chase and the opener are super lyrically dense. Do you ever forget a line on stage?
Yeah, sometimes just the words get tangled, but I think people are quite forgiving. I'm certainly forgiving on myself. I've certainly made the band laugh when I've got them wrong in the past. There's this track off the first record called Payday, and it's the line was what constitutes a ghetto fetish, and I don't know, I must have been hungry, I must have been thinking about catering, but I said what constitutes spaghetti fetish, and that made Jay sort of fuck his drums up. And it was, we still talk about that to this day. It was about 4 years ago. Yeah, occasionally lines will get lost, but I don't drink on stage, so I feel like it keeps me sharp having that many lyrics. I feel like I'm staving off memory loss. I think it's a practice, it's a meditative practice for me.
Yeah, that's good. As you mentioned, you worked with Justin Melville Johnson as a producer of the new record, and he's worked with a lot of loud bands, heavy bands. Was Yard Act intentionally looking to head in more of a rock direction this time?
No, not at all. No. I mean, Justin was a fan. I mean, we sort of wrote so many songs for this record. There was about 40 tunes, maybe a few more. And there was some really heavy stuff that didn't make the record. There was a thrash song called On Top, which I think we'll see the light of day at some point, but it's got like double kick pedal on it and stuff. And we sort of treated every day as just as an experiment to see what we could get out of ourselves, and with no sort of regard for anything other than the joy of exploring sound and playing together. That song was a lot of fun to make. The sort of aim was always to finish at the body of a song one a day, so it would be done, and then the next day refine it. So sort of 2 days a song, kind of 4 days a week. And some of it was absolute garbage, and I think it's maybe even be in the recycle bin on the laptop. But that was the sort of challenge we set ourselves. And there were some really heavy songs, and Justin was kind of fighting for a few of the heavy ones that didn't make it. At one point there was like sort of 3 track listings for sort of 3 different albums. There was like a fully heavy album, and then there was a fully sort of like sprightly album in the vein of sort of songs like New Beginnings and Talk People were on that, and Redeemer and Empty Pledges were on the heavy record. And then there was the record we settled on, which was trying to marry both sounds and everything in between into one sort of narrative arc, lyrically and sonically. Yeah, that was kind of how that worked. But I think Justin was pushing for it to be a bit heavier. I get the impression like Justin was a fan of us, and he loved the Overload, but I get the impression, he never explicitly said it, but I don't think he was a fan of Where's My Utopia. And I think he may have been actively maybe trying to push us away from that a bit. But I think we managed to marry both sides of our sound quite well on this record. I think that was that was the only intention. Yeah, I feel like that's what completes us. I think I don't think we're one note in that sense, and I think the Overload was basically that sort of dark cynicism up until 100% Endurance. There's bursts of darkness on Where's My Utopia. I think Down by the Stream's quite a dark song, but overall that the mood on that was a lot lighter. Kind of ironically, based on the sort of lyrical content of that record, I think, it was kind of me having a breakdown at what was, from the outside looking in, the funnest years of my life, where all my dreams had come true, which wasn't the reality. So this time, I think we were trying to sort of marry the reality of the darkness of life with the hope for a reality where things can be a bit lighter, because I think without that hope, I think we endure because we do have that hope as a band.
So what did Justin bring to the table that your previous producers did not?
I mean, we've been very lucky that we loved working with Ali on the Overload, but it was very much me and Ryan centric because Jay wasn't even in the band at that point. I played drums on that record, and Sam only came in towards the end and overdubbed his guitar parts at the end. So Ali only really got to focus on me and Ryan. And then with Where's My Utopia, like me and Remy had a really strong connection, sort of rooted in taste. And Remy's obviously a drummer and a percussionist, and him and Jay really clicked. So I think because I was kind of in charge of the sort of the sampling and a lot of the sort of keys on Where's My Utopia, and Jay was helming the beats, I think Remy sort of gravitated a little bit more towards us. And so that was kind of a me and Jay record. And Justin's main thing was kind of like, his theory was the Monkees theory. He was like, I think you guys are like the Monkees. All 4 of you could have your own TV show, but you're greater than the the band is greater than the sum of its parts. So I want everyone's individuality to shine on this record. Whilst it's still, I want everyone to be able to see what makes a Yard Act record a Yard Act record, because you can sense the people within it, which I think as a sort of recording philosophy is amazing. And I think he managed that. This is the first time that's been a full team effort. Whereas My Utopia was a team effort, but I think Sam and Ryan stepped back a little bit on that one because I had quite a strong vision for it, and they knew, well, they sensed to step back there and let me sort of carry that record with alongside Jay and Remy. Whereas this time it was like we didn't want that to happen, and it was almost like everyone else wanted to step forward, and I also wanted to step back and kind of fall into the music a little bit more and be less on top. Because it was never my intention for it to be the me show, really. It's just kind of that's how it happened early on, because it was so centered around lyrics. It felt like there was a real interest in lyrics, more so than there had been for a lot of the 2010s when I started in bands. All the bands just had fucking reverb drenched vocals, and it just didn't speak to me. Like, I've always loved lyrics, like, you know, and so when kind of all the sort of the post-punk thing came up and all of a sudden everyone was talking about lyrics again, we were like, fucking hell, we can get back on this. And so I was kind of pushed to the front, and I don't mind being at the front, but I don't want to sideline how incredible Sam, Jay and Ryan are to this. And so this time it felt like 3 albums in, it was a good time for me to sort of melt back a little and make it less centered around me, it'd been a really enjoyable process. And I think Justin navigated that incredibly.
Keeping with the Monkees theme, did he make you all live in a house together?
Yeah, we lived in Burbank. I don't know if you're familiar with the suburb of Burbank. It's technically not LA.
A little bit.
Yeah. We stayed in like a big posh house in the suburb of Burbank, and it was domestic bliss. We all had our own room, and we all I mean, we were working pretty long hours. Like we'd go into sort of like Silver Lake or whatever at night, and sort of we saw quite a few good shows. Tropical Fuckstorm played a great show while we were there, and we saw what else did we see? Saw Fuzz play. I didn't get to go to that show because I'd flown home, but they all went to see Kate LeBon. So we spent some time in LA, but like, you know, there were nights where we'd just sort of cook a meal together, and it was Monkees adjacent for sure.
Who's the best cook in the band?
Maybe me. I don't know.
Yeah?
I'm all right at cooking. I'm not great. Now I've said it, I'm going to burn a load of stuff, I guess. But like, I'm all right. I'm all right at like sort of, I like doing curries and stews. Like anything where you can let it, the longer where you can't fuck it up, the longer you do it, the more you can add to it. That's kind of my vibe. Ryan's king of the salads. Ryan's an Instagram cook, and I don't mean that disparagingly. He knows how to make. He knows how to present a plate. He works in. I don't know if you've got it in America, but he works in Nando's. Do you know? Are you familiar with Nando's?
I know the name, but I've never been to one.
Yeah, it's like peri peri chicken, and Ryan worked in a Nando's for 12 years, so he understands restaurant quality service. So that's kind of Ryan's forte. Jay's a good cook. He's a noodle guy. Jay's always going to the sort of Southeast Asian supermarkets and picking up rare and delicate herbs and spices to make a nice broth. And Sam's like a roast 5 kilos of vegetables for fuel and eat them all kind of guy. Sam's never cooked for us. I think he's probably a good cook, but he's never offered his services. And if he listens to this, that's me saying I'm hungry.
What's the most LA thing that you did in LA while you were staying in LA making the record?
Me and Ryan got into like sort of boxing we'd get up at 5 and go boxing at a very sort of like middle class sort of boxing gym. It was very gentle. It wasn't rough in any way. We'd do that, and then we'd get a matcha and walk back to the house. I think that felt quite LA. Yeah, hiking up the trails in the valley was always fun. I mean, Yelling at coyotes feels quite LA. We sort of yelled at quite a lot of coyotes. They're getting really confident out there.
Oh yeah, they come right up to you.
Yeah. And you have to shout, "Go away, coyote." So we shouted, "Go away, coyote" quite a lot. That felt quite LA. Yeah, actually, I'd say the defining LA feature was matcha, drinking iced matchas, because when Justin was in Leeds, he was, I think he really enjoyed Leeds. Like, he's a bit of an Anglophile, and obviously with the Sisters of Mercy connection and the sort of like birthplace of goth vibe, he was very excited to be in the Gloom, but he missed the fact that we don't do good matches in Leeds. Like, he never found a good one. And I've since found them out. So next time Justin is in Leeds, I'm going to take him for a good one, because we owe him one. But the abundance of good matches in LA was a revelation for us. And I actually now think it's a delicious drink. And now I know where the good ones are in Leeds. I will often opt for a matcha.
I was going to say that almost sounds like a business opportunity.
Yeah, the Yardak Matcha Shop. Yeah, I think we always thought that we'd open a bar, but I think with the fact that we're all pretty much off the booze now, I think maybe it's time to open the matcha shop. I don't know what we'd call it. You're going to need a little matcha, I guess, is probably
you go.
Style. Yeah, I think you may have, the up and coming tour may be cancelled now, Bill. I think more pressing commitments.
You could at least have at the merch table, your own Yardak brand of matcha powder or something.
That's the one. I think that's the compromise, isn't it? I reckon we can get some pre-existing matcha and rebadge it in time for the tour next week. I'm sure that.
Yeah.
When's this going out?
This will go up on Monday. So
great. Yeah,
a week from today.
Yeah, and the first show's on Wednesday, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you're listening, there will be matcha available at the merch store.
Speaking of Leeds, Empty Pledges, I think it's a really great way to introduce the album, and it's menacing, and it's kind of about Leeds, and you mentioned actually Leeds indie rock royalty, the wedding present in the song.
Yeah. David Gedge he's reached out indirectly to say he's honoured by the mention, which is really sweet. Is a friend of his came up to us in Brighton to say that he could. I think he lives in Brighton now. Say he couldn't make the gig because they were on tour or something, but he'd sent his regards and said thanks for the mention. So that's cool. That was a nice thing. Yeah, I think they're underappreciated, the wedding present. They have a loyal fan base, but I don't
for
think,
sure.
I hope that maybe Yardak listeners, maybe, I don't want to be disparaging, maybe some younger listeners that haven't discovered them yet may get into them off the back of that. It's all about carrying the flame for what's come before, isn't it? It's like,
right.
Yeah.
You didn't actually A-B rhyme Empty Pledges with David Gedge's, but there was a rhyme there.
Yeah, I can't remember if David Gedges or I'd mentioned the Regis. I'd got up to the custom Regis line and I was like, I'd mentioned the wedding present and I wanted to figure out. Then I made that link and I was like, how do I link this together with the car? I think I maybe do claim the title of being the first person to rhyme pledges with David Gedges in the song. I think that's maybe a first. Always trying to break new ground.
What other Leeds indie bands from the last 40 years should Yardak listeners know about?
Well, I mean, I think the main, the biggest one and potentially the best is Gang of Four. I do think Gang of Four are a really, really important band, musically and politically. I can't believe Damaged Goods was their first single. To come out with that tune, that's like firecracker energy, I wasn't there at the time, but you hear that song now and it's so electric. That energy is hard to capture, and to do that, I think that's a rare moment in music when a band's first song that they put out is a song like Damaged Goods. And I played guitar with Gang of Four at their last show at the Kentish Town Forum in London. They invited me to play with them, and I played guitar on What We All Want.
Oh wow!
Yeah, Hugo lives in Boston, and he came to see us and asked if I'd do it when we played at the Sinclair last time. Off the back of that, I met John, and then Gail was playing bass, and Ted Leo was on guitar as well for that. And the whole band was so lovely, and like, you know, John and Hugo especially, like to sort of meet them and sort of chat with them felt like a real. They wanted me to do it at the Brunel in Leeds, but we were on tour, but I flew back and landed in London and managed to make that show happen. So that was a really special night. I think Delta 5, I know Mike D's covering Mind Your Own Business in his new set, which I think is really cool. Mekons, obviously. I think like when I was coming through, there was a lot of sort of like, I mean, there was bands like Forward Russia in the sort of mid 2000s. Skylarkin, of course. Yeah, I mean, Nesta from Skylarkin used to drum in Ryan's old band Menace Beach. Grammatics, obviously, get a shout out on We Make Hits, and like Pulled Apart by Horses were really, really like
insane live show.
Yeah, so good. And like, they're still going and they're still great. I look, you know, that when I came to Leeds, it was 2009. I've been going to gigs in Manchester and seeing a lot of good stuff. You know, it was quite an exciting time at the time, but there was something about how many back rooms of pubs were putting on shows in Leeds and how many local bands there were, and sort of getting, like, my first show at the Brunel was October 2009. And I went, it was called Brainwash Festival, and Pulled Apart by Horses headlined. And that was the first time I'd seen them live. I'd read about them and listened to a couple of the songs, but I'd not seen them live until that point. And it was one of those like life-changing shows for me. I was like 19 years old. And then you'd see them hanging around in town after, and you could talk to them. And like that's like an incredibly important thing, you know. Not long after that, there was like I think Eagles were a really underappreciated Leeds band.
Oh, yeah.
Not underappreciated in terms of like, they had quite a buzz about them, but I think they were a bit ahead of their time. Like, I think if they'd come out, I think especially their singles were better than a lot of the bands that cut their teeth around the time we did that made a name for themselves. I think Eagles was some of the best pop songs to come out in a sort of post-punk vein in a long time. You know, there's like that song Possessed was their big one, but like there was a track called Coffin off their first EP that was really, really cool. And their first single, Council Flat Blues, they were great. I saw them so many times. And the second album had some really good tunes on it as well. But it kind of they sort of just stopped after that. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Hookworms as well were like a big band that was sort of like really sort of pushing the psych rock thing in a really exciting manner. And Ryan's band Menace Beach as well, you know, like Menace Beach wrote some incredible scuzzy sort of like synthy indie pop tunes that like that were great. Like their single Tastes Like Medicine, I still like hear that now, and it like sends shivers up my spine. It was a really exciting time to be around. And then sort of there was still stuff happening, but we all sort of grew up a little bit and started to go. I don't go to half as many gigs now as I used to, just because of other commitments, and I'm barely ever been in the city. But like, I think there's a new wave of bands now that are doing great things. I saw a band at a festival yesterday. I'd just gone for the day with my kid, called Bathing Suits. They're the same age as I was when I started playing gigs in Leeds, 1920, and they had that like scruffy, snappy, don't give a fuck energy that like you can only have when you're like 19, 20 years old. And it was really cool to see them doing it. Like, I think there's still great bands knocking around. It's a good city. It breeds, I think, because there's a lot of students, and because it's still a relatively cheap place to live, especially for a major city. I think people come here and they stay here. There's so many small venues, even in the sort of like the fact that a lot of venues are struggling to keep their doors open at a smaller level. There's still a healthy amount of sort of 100 to sort of 400 cap venues in Leeds. Like, we have an abundance of them. Yeah. And so bands can kind of get the support slots and play reasonably regularly. And I think that's how you get better. So I think that's why. But also Leeds bands they're just not as bothered about breaking out as like a band from Manchester or whatever. Like, I don't think we have, despite having great bands like Gang of Four, or like even Gang of Four being the biggest, like they're not like, there's not big bands from Leeds like there is Manchester or Liverpool or even Sheffield, you know, which is a lot smaller but has produced far bigger bands. But it doesn't mean there's not good stuff going on. I just don't know. I don't know. But bands don't seem that fussed about sort of looking outwards as much in Leeds.
So as you mentioned, and I mentioned both, your North American tour starts next week, August 5th. What can we expect this time around?
The band sounds, they're good at the moment. Like, we're feeling really energized. We're feeling tight and loose at the same time. Like, we're sort of pushing ourselves. We're switching the sets up. We're pulling old songs out of the bag we've not played for a while, and they feel fun to play. It's a little bit like, yeah, it's loose. Like, it's like, you know, we're just hanging on with some of the ones that we've sort of dragged back out that we've not played for a while, but we're still throwing them in the set. And there's like, it feels like there's an energy to them. They don't feel like drilled because we've done the same set, which was a thing, I think, with the Utopia tour, because of the choreography. I think we sort of had to stick to the same set pretty much. Right. And towards the end, it was a bit like, for me particularly, I find it quite fatiguing to do the same thing every night. I sort of feel like I'm in, you know, it's very Groundhog Day for me, and I sort of start to lose it if we don't change things up. So I think moving back to a 5-piece has really given us this like freedom to sort of call songs as we go and sort of change it up a bit. So that I'm excited for it to be like that. It's going to be loose. And like, you know, I think Bambara are a great band. I've not seen them live. But The Armed, I watched them live in Detroit back in March, and I know how good they are live, and like booking them to open for us, I think is going to push us a lot harder, because I think we're going to, you know, we can't not deliver having them open for us. So like I think it's going to be pretty full on, you know. We're not going to ease off. And, you know, we're excited to be back in the States. So
what are you most excited about coming back to the US and Canada?
I'm really excited to play Detroit for the first time. I've got a lot of love for that city. Spent a few days there, and it really resonated with me. I kind of felt a lot for like the sort of the resistance and the people that have hung on there. Like, it's a really fascinating place. It is, you know, it's rough and ready, and I could, you know, I'm rooting for Detroit basically. So like, I'm excited to get that show in there. We're going to go to Paisley Park when we're in Minneapolis again, see Prince's house again. That's always fun. I mean, I love the West Coast drive. We're doing bottom to top this time, but like taking in the scenery along the West Coast is always something. Yeah, I mean, we've made friends out there. Like, I mean, like say New York, you're in New York, right?
Yep.
New York's a place that's dear to our hearts. Like, I'm looking forward to catching up with Gustav. I'm trying to think where else that's like always great. I mean, Chicago's always a big city for us. We do well in Chicago. I don't know. There's something about that sort of East Coast, like, and that sort of that Midwest to East Coast sort of vibe feels like a bit north of England adjacent. Like, there's a sort of like synchronicity where I feel like the people in those cities kind of get it a little bit more. But, you know, LA, you know, we feel like we're very LA-ified now as well. So yeah, getting a matcher in LA, I guess.
I was going to say, like, you guys having the Armed open, some bands might be a little nervous to have such a energetic and wild band open for them, but I think that's cool that you guys are doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess it's like harks back to like what I was saying earlier about when we sort of played all the new songs that hadn't come out yet on these big stages at festivals. It's like, you don't want an easy win. Like, I want to go into a show knowing that we've got to earn it. I think that it keeps it alive, and you don't always get it, you know. I'm sure like they may up stages a couple of times, like if we don't bring it, but I like giving us that challenge. That's why I do it. I'd rather that than a slick repeated show every night. I just think that's boring for me. Right. I can't live with myself if I do that. Like, I want to watch them and then go and watch how the crowd reacts to that and go, how the fuck do I follow that? And then rise to it, you know. They're great. Like Derek, their bass player, engineered our record, which is how we sort of got to know them. And I think they're just, a phenomenal band. And loads of fun to be around as well. The nicest people. So I'm really excited to tour with them.
One other thing I want to talk to you a little bit about is your artwork. You painted the portraits of the band members on the inside of the album, and you have a couple paintings that are in a exhibition in London right now, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. I got into it after we finished touring Where's My Utopia. I'd never painted before. We weren't starting. I mean, we're always sort of writing a little bit, but we weren't committing to writing the third record yet. And I'm kind of have this like obsessive, it probably stems from some childhood trauma where I can't not be doing something at all times. And so I just bought some paints on a whim and started oil painting, having never done it before. And I painted a couple that were quite safe and sort of like, I was sketching them out before I was doing them. And then I just sort of one day got really into it. And I know you can't see, but I'm in the attic where I paint. It's where my recording setup is and where my paint studio is. I basically had this old chest of drawers that I'd inherited from my auntie when she died, and I couldn't bear to sort of just give it to a charity shop, but I didn't have any use for it. So I tore it to pieces and used all the wood to paint on. And that's, the basis of most of my sort of early paintings was sort of learning to paint on this old chest of drawers. I had no intentions to share it publicly, but I showed it to a couple of friends, and they connected me with a painter called Humphrey Ocean, because I mentioned I was a big fan of his work, and he used to be the bass player for Ian Jury in the very early days, and then he went fully into the painting. Yeah, and he came to see us with the Hives at Alexandra Palace and was like, I think this is really good. You should show this to people. And then off the back of that, it's kind of all. I just went public with it because I wasn't even on Instagram at the time. I didn't want to be on Instagram, but I just took this leap and I submitted them for this gallery show, and it's all sort of happened. And yeah, they're out in the world now, and it's just something that I do. It's very therapeutic for me. Yeah.
You mentioned you have a Instagram account dedicated to your paintings. Do you want to say what that is?
Yeah, sure. It's at Mr. Mucky Brushes. That's me. That's where I showcase my paintings. Yeah.
I was looking at them earlier today, and you've got one that's set in Nashville. Did you spend much time there?
Yeah. I was in Nashville back in March, visiting a friend, and I think Nashville's a really, really great place. I think the music scene is wicked, and not just the country scene. We toured with the other support band on that Hives tour was Snooper. So we got to know those guys a little bit there, and yeah, I spent some time in Nashville, and that was the same trip that I also went to Detroit to see the Arnd. I was just sort of on a little holiday. Nashville's a really cool city. The space kind of, like when you think about how sort of built up, like we all sort of live on top of each other in the UK. We're all in sort of back-to-back terrace houses. There's just not as much space. The roads are a lot narrower. The sort of breadth of Nashville I find really beautiful, the sort of sprawl of it. And that picture I painted, the houses, like the very picturesque. It's a very beautiful place.
In some ways, it feels like a small town.
Yeah, it's got that small town vibe. And then you sort of go downtown, but you don't really feel like you're in downtown of a big city. There's very few skyscrapers. Right. I mean, they're slowly sort of creeping up, but there's still very few skyscrapers in Nashville, I think, in comparison to most cities that big. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, though it has more bachelorette parties than most cities.
Yeah, that was the main thing I noticed, because we played in Nashville a couple of years ago, but we were in East Nashville. We played at a place called the Basement East, and East Nashville is very sort of vibey and cool. We did take a trip down the what's the main strip called? The Honky Tonk Road, where all the bachelorette
it's like
parties
Broadway.
go to, where Kid Rock's goes. Yeah, Broadway. Yeah, we went down Broadway for the sort of tourist kick last time we were there, but we got a cabin and we just sort of ran up and down it for 45 minutes before we had to get back for the show, just because we wanted to see it. But when I was back in Nashville this time, I was like taken aback by the amount of pink cowboy hats and like woo-woo drinks. It was pretty crazy, but still a cool place. Yeah, people got a party somewhere.
On the subject of current pop culture, have you gone to see The Odyssey?
No, it's on my to-do list. How long is it?
Right about 3 hours.
That's my Friday off. That's me sorted for Friday night, I think. I've got really into going to the cinema on my own and I love it. Have you seen it?
I have.
What did you think?
I liked it. It is as loud as a rock concert, I would say.
Oh, really? Who's done the score for it?
That guy, Ludwig Göransson.
Oh, yeah. Amazing.
Who did
I am going to go and see it.
What's the most recent film you've seen?
I saw the drama, the one with Robert Pattinson in it. Have you seen that?
I haven't seen it yet.
That's worth seeing. That's sort of one of the most original films I've seen in a couple of years, and he's brilliant in it. It kind of reminded me of a sort of a similar sort of sort of like an escalation film, but it didn't have the sort of goofy sort of caperishness of Marty Supreme. It was kind of felt a little bit more sort of highbrow in how it sort of delivered its message, but really sort of dark, funny sense of humor to it as well. I also saw the remake of The Stranger by Camus that just came out, the French one, and I really enjoyed that. I went to the cinema to see that last month, and I was quite. Have you seen that?
I've not heard of it.
It's pretty close to the book. They've not changed much, but and it's very French. There's a lot of it's all in black and white. There's a lot of smoking cigarettes, and there's a lot of passionate sex scenes in it. I mean, it's a French art film through and through. But they did it. The film ends, the credits roll, and they play "Killing an Arab" by The Cure, which was I thought was so on the nose. It really worked. But that was good. I saw Toy Story 5 as well, actually. I took my kids to see Toy Story 5, and I really enjoyed that. I thought it was maybe the weakest of the 5, but those films, I was 4 when Toy Story 1 came out, and I've grown up with them films, and so to be taking my kid to see them now, the fact they're still going, they can have my money. Pixar can take my money until the day I die. No matter how bad they are, I'll always go and watch them. And it's still good. I thought it crammed a little bit much into the plot, but I loved it. Yeah.
All right, James, I think that's going to do it. Is there anything else that we should know?
No, I don't think so. Just, just come and see us on the tour if you want to see a great rock and roll show from the Armed, and then see us try and follow it.
All right, James. Thanks so much.
Cheers, Bill. Thanks for having me.
Thanks again to James Smith for being on this week's show. Yard Act's great new album, You're Gonna Need a Little Music, is out now, and the band's tour starts August 5th in San Diego. Links to all the dates are in our show description. While you're still with us, be sure to check out our other podcast, BV Weekly, where my coworkers Dave and Andrew discuss the week's hot button music news, the latest releases, and more. Also, be sure to follow Brooklyn Vegan on social media. Check out our online shop with exclusive vinyl, merch, and more. And if you like this episode, be sure to tell your musically minded friends about it, as well as do all those other things, like subscribe, write us a review, give us 5 stars, all that kind of stuff. It really does help us reach more ears. Big thanks to our mix engineer, Nick Gray, and Michael Silverstein for the theme music. I'm Bill Pearis. Thanks for listening.